Hey, everybody, and welcome to the very first episode of the BevCast, where we talk to people that are involved with BevCam, all sorts of people, from the people that are behind the cameras to the people that are in front of the cameras. As I said, it's the very first episode, so we're very excited to have as our guest Mr. Kim Allyn. We'll start right off with, how do we pronounce this last name, Kim?
Well, it's pronounced Allyn, even though it doesn't look like it should be pronounced.
It looks like Allyn.
It's Allyn, right?
Do you get called Kim Allyn a lot?
Yeah, I do, and I accept it.
But it's technically pronounced Allyn.
It is.
Yeah.
It is, as if there was an I-N-E in there, or, well, even that's not even clear. It's a Welsh. It's, England.
Yeah.
12th generation in this country.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's cool. So, Kim, you are a employee of BevCam.
I am, still.
Currently, even though I think I remember you something about you retiring, but I guess that's retiring from full-time.
Yes, I retired from office work. What was it, 2 years ago, I think? Yeah, 2 years ago, like this month.
That's right.
Or last month, right, yeah. So don't ask me about retirement.
Okay. Why not?
Well, because it's going okay, except I'm a little bored.
Yeah.
Hence this show.
Well, you're still doing stuff for BevCam. Where would people see you these days for BevCam?
Well, I would be, as Julie Flowers would say, the man behind the booth. It's almost like Mr. Oz, right? I'm the guy down at City Hall, third floor, chambers, running a similar system that you have here for city council meetings. 4 cameras, automatic switcher, and I just boot up, cover the meeting, make sure things go well, make sure people use their mics the right way, and then go home.
So before we get a little bit into your background of how you got involved, you like doing that.
I love it.
Isn't it some dry stuff, though? I mean, you're getting into
It's something that nobody, in fact, hardly anybody goes to the meeting. Even when they have a public meeting, not many people show up. But I do have people come up to me, like the very last meeting I covered, and they thanked me for covering. They said, "You are doing an unbelievable service for the town." And it just tells me that at least some people understand what's going on here with our service that we provide. I also do it because I like to be close to the politics of the town, and I'm a taxpayer, so I get sometimes the inside scoop.
You must be pretty informed. At least it's to, what's going on in the city and stuff like that.
A lot more informed than way back before I was part of BevCam, that's for sure. I never watched any of that, and I never went to the meetings. And I've been, we can get into my background, but I've been in this town for 50 years, since the 70s. And I've never really understood, I never knew what city council was. Anyhow, so I get a lot out of it, and I think the people down there all appreciate me. They kind of know who I am, and they're always thanking me, so I like it.
Well, we're happy.
I feel like I'm a somebody.
You are somebody,
so
don't deny it. It is. You're there every city council meeting. You even do the school committees. You're just there helping, making sure that we get somebody there doing a job that a lot of people don't want to do. So I appreciate it.
And it's relatively easy. I mean, you allowed me to continue doing them when I retired.
You were doing us a favor.
And boy, does it give me purpose. Because again, you retired, and I don't know, it's almost like the door slammed on me. And so when I get out and do these meetings, it gets me out.
Yeah, good. Well, now let's get back into the background a little bit. You're a North Shore native?
I am. I grew up in Linfield, which is about 12 miles south. Down 128. It's kind of a sleepy town. And I came to this town because of music. I don't have a music background in education. I actually went to college for business at Northeastern. But after college, I was able to get myself into music and travel and do all that, meet famous people. So I loved it, and I did that until I realized that I think I need some health insurance. So I did it until the early 80s, until I met my current wife. So,
And then you didn't jump right into BevCam. There probably was no BevCam in the 80s.
No, BevCam, well, cable came to Beverly, I think in 1981, cable, the
Yep.
cable itself.
I remember all of us waiting for
And they were
HBO.
all advertising it like broadband. Nobody knew what that was. Bro, what's that mean? It sounds nasty, broadband, you know. And they mentioned fiber even back then. But there was another local access, well, I think it was called Media One, or one of those names before it became Comcast. Went through about 2 or 3 different names back then. And they had a big studio up on Tozier Road in its own building. So they were doing that for the city. They were, I guess, contracted to do that. That was part of the deal, of stringing all their cable around the city. So, but then in 2001, you probably know all this history. I don't think the cable, I think it may have been Comcast. Well, I don't know who it was called at that time. Could have been, I don't know what they were called, but they somehow got the city to agree to take over the access. And then so BevCam was formed, I think, as a corporation, 501c3.
2001, yeah.
You know, with its own board of directors. Back then, the agreement was to have Comcast, through the city, funnel some money. You probably tell everybody about this stuff in your presentation, right, don't you?
My orientation, yeah.
Yeah, do you cover that? So
Doing one
I
tomorrow,
won't
yeah.
be redundant, but, and so BevCam was formed, and BevCam technically is paid by the city, as you know. The city gets their money from the cable provider, and the cable provider pays this money through an agreement that happens about every 10 years. I think we're on our 3rd agreement now, third agreement from 3-4 years ago, which provides money for staff and equipment, capital, that kind of thing, so that you guys can do what you do. I think it's a great little thing, you know.
Were you involved at that time, or do you just know this from?
I wasn't. I just used to flip around the channels when we first got cable TV in Beverly back in 1981, flipping around, and we could get Showtime, you know, the HBO, those kinds of things. It was $15 a month. $15.
Yeah.
And then if you wanted HBO, it'd be $5 more or something. I thought it was a great deal. So occasionally I would bump into the then cable access studio from Tozier and just watch some of their shows. I wouldn't watch a lot of it because it was pretty bad back then. Wasn't what it is like now. But that was my only thing. I can tell you the story of how I got really involved with BevCam.
Yeah.
So leading up to all that, I had a prior career in the ultrafiltration business, which is scientific for made filters like Mr. Coffee filters, but it was for the medical and pharmaceutical business. So I was like a plant manager for this company. Company was called Millipore. For 25 years, and they asked me one more thing to do for them was to kind of shut the place down, move all the stuff out, validate, move it overseas. So I found myself, after doing all that, I was out of a job. People were out of work. It was kind of a low point for me. But what happened was I was so involved with music that a friend of mine who's kind of a famous guy, he was playing in a band called Boston. At the time, it was a famous rock band named after Boston. And he had died, unfortunately, and we were involved with raising money, doing a big concert at the Danversport Yacht Club. And we got a bunch of bands together, and we raised about $40,000. And we had the Danvers Access Station. This was in 2007. They came down. It was Dana Healy, actually. She was the one holding the camera.
Yep.
Now she's running the company that does your broadcast
Cablecast.
server.
Yep.
Cablecast, right. So I had all this footage on digital tape, and I didn't know what to do with it. So one of the guys in my band says, I know this place that we can go. It's a local, it's BevCam. I said, I've heard of BevCam. And we were in the old high school at the time before they rebuilt the new one. So I went down there and I didn't, he said, well, you have to be a member. So I had to pay, I think it was $15. And I took, they offered courses like you do. And how to do camera work, how do you do the lights, 3-point lighting, and all this sort of fancy stuff, which I knew nothing of. And then they also taught me how to edit using Final Cut Pro. I think you guys probably offer that, but it's probably mostly Adobe you use now.
It depends on people's preferences. If somebody wants to do, I'm not very familiar with Final Cut, so I couldn't answer it. But Amanda, our education manager, is pretty familiar with Final Cut. She likes to edit in that, so.
Well, it was an eye-opener for me. I just took to it like steel on magnet. I was just, and I could not, and I was out of work at the time, right? So what an opportunity. So I worked on editing that show, that tribute show that we did that raised a lot of money, and presented it on DVDs for just about everybody that went to that show. There were like 1,500 people. We packed the place, and all the players, everybody took part in it. So, yeah, that's it. And so because I was out of work, I started hanging out at BevCam. Was, like luggage. I was just kind of hanging. And I started, volunteering my time. I think I spent at least 8 hours a day for 2-3 years.
Being the Uber
volunteer? Just a guy that just couldn't get enough of how much I learned.
Do you still have that footage?
I do.
You do?
I do. Why? Do you want me to?
I want to see it.
You do?
Yeah, play it on the channel. I'm old enough to remember the band Boston, so.
Yeah. A lot of people, the viewers probably won't, but they were famous back in the 70s.
I think it was the first LP, maybe the second one. I think I may have bought Star Wars first, but that Boston one. Well, I was probably 13 or 14, but I remember.
Yeah, those guys, not to get into that subject, but they were from around here, Swampscott, and the lead singer who passed back then he was a Danvers guy, and we all knew him before and after, right? So, and he never changed, which was interesting. But so we did that, and so I got friendly with Walter. He was the prior executive director before you for many years. I think he became that in 2006. It was like a year before I started volunteering. And I kind of hung around him a lot. He would teach me how to, coil the wires up, in a certain way. I was just so taken by all of this. And so he said to me, I said, geez, would you like to hire me? He says, well, we don't have the money to hire you. He says, but we are going to renew our contract, hopefully, with Comcast. This was in 2011. Yeah, 2011. But he asked me to get on this thing called the Cable Commission of Beverly, which is a city. I don't think it's a city department, but I think it's a group of people to sort of field complaints from cable people, like, I'm not getting the channel I want, and all those local access people, BevCam, And so I said, okay, I'll join that. I got nothing better. I think that'd be fun. He says, well, they're going to start negotiating a contract, and maybe you can get us more money. Well, I did join that thing. I got approved by the mayor and all that. And I got on that group, and we met all the time, and we ended up getting more money. We didn't leave a lot on the table like they did the first round. And so after that contract was done, I think it was October of 2011, Walter says, why don't you write yourself a job description? So I know I'm doing all the talking.
Yes, you're doing great. It's one of the best guests I've ever had.
So I wrote a job description because I noticed that Walter at the time was doing a lot of all the grunt work that volunteers would be doing. He'd be grabbing the cameras in the studio that we had in this, doing all this work. I said, well, you know what, Walter, if I'll write this down, And I can tell you that I can manage this organization, the studio part, things that go on during the day. If you hire me, that will give you a chance to go out and do outreach. And well, he just loved that idea. He came from a marketing background. He used to work years ago for Polaroid. And so the deal was done with the contract. I resigned from that cable committee. I think it was cable committee, maybe it was called. And the guy that was running it says, I was expecting that. He says, you're probably going to work from BevCam. I said, yeah, that's what I'm going to do. So he hired me, October of 2011.
So you were then a manager, or what was the title?
Yeah, he says, what do you want to be? I said, well, we should both agree on it, but studio manager might be appropriate. I said, I've got 20 plus years of managing, the pharmaceutical end of my life, when I had it. I said, so I can kind of do that, I think, but, let me try to prove it to you. Yep. So, yeah, we did that. And again, it was almost, I didn't stop I felt like I was still volunteering, learning everything I could, except I was being paid now, and they had the money.
What are some of your favorite things to do at BevCam?
Camera.
Yeah?
I wasn't overly attached to lighting. It was so different from me because of all the options you can do with lighting, backlighting, all this kind of stuff. Microphones, I kind of took to that because, there are rules about talking into these things, like that. Your producer is going to say, back away from it. But mostly camera. I just loved everything about the shots, the rule of thirds, all the things that you have to do in order to make that production somewhat interesting. Most of the shows we did were talking heads like this. So they were kind of boring, but we were able to do, movements during an interview, or slide the camera over. We were doing some fancy things back then. Well,
it's surprisingly, people don't think about how important it is. But when I first got involved, and if you'd had an interview where the one half of the face was down or something like that, it just throws it off. So the fact that you took, a shining to that kind of aesthetic.
Because I never knew the rules. I never, and then I watched TV like I never have before. Because I kept looking, I said, oh, that's right, they're following all those rules. And I think it's mostly because people will turn off subconsciously to bad television imagery, like if you have too much space in front of the person speaking this way, that kind of thing. They kind of, turn off to it and say, this is not interesting to watch. But if you really follow the rules.
I was astounded when I realized that when they do the cut to the interviewer who's kind of nodding their head, that's an indication that they just cut out like 5 minutes. That was the cut. I was like, yeah, I'm understanding how this works. When you first kind of learn it, it's just sort of interesting.
Well, we would also get what we used to call it a reaction shot.
Yeah.
Like you just did your head like that, so we'd cut to that. And a kid that knew a lot more than I did at the time, I would take that shot maybe once or twice too many during a half-hour segment, and he'd say to me in the headset, because he'd be producing it and directing it like you have your gentleman here, he said, okay, enough of doing that, okay? We've been there a few times. So that's the one thing I didn't learn right away is when I did something that I thought was like a slow pull-out on a shot while the person was talking, and then I would stop. I was always taught, you got to come to a definite stop, right? You can't just stop and then do it again and then stop and do it again. It gets bad. Those little details, I just loved it. And you try to teach it to everybody that's involved, but they really, and we used to teach this stuff back in the day. You guys do too, but there's so many different things that you can do. Podcasts, with or without cameras, right? The studio work, doing the sports. There's just so many different types of video. It's probably hard to teach every little thing.
Well, even I talk about how the rule is you find your shot and you stay there. You don't spend the time wandering. It's like I talk about how when I first put cameras in my daughter's hands and they'd run around, and it was just worthless because it was like, it's all moving everywhere. So I'm like, you got to find your shot, stay there, and then go to your next shot, and then stay there. You don't need to move around and searching for it.
Right.
So
Yeah.
I think that's kind of what you're getting at.
Right, because when you're learning this stuff, all you want to do is those things.
Yes.
And then so someone had to eventually tell me, he says, we appreciate you learning good and doing those nice shots, but can you kind of slow down with some of these things that you want to do? So anyhow.
So do you have like the funniest public access story that you remember throughout your time?
Oh my God. I should have gotten these questions in advance.
Sorry. I just came up with it. I'm like, you got to have some funny story where you're like, I can't believe this happened on camera.
Well, so I reached my 10-year mark. I think this was the time frame that we had people that worked in the office, and this was at the high school way before this. My 10-year point would have been 2021, I guess, right? Yeah. And it was either my birthday or a celebration of my 10-year. And I think someone gave me like a plaque or something. But we were going to have lunch at the office brought in, sandwiches. And we did. And what was funny to me, and I think it's on video somewhere, I've got it somewhere, at least a picture. I think I posted it on Facebook. Everybody came in with these white strap-on beards. They all looked like me, right? And I tend to wear these corny shirts, that have a pocket, and I used to always have a pen. And so they all had like the pen and they were all me, all of them. They were like 10 people because we had some volunteers that actually did the whole thing, and they all showed up and we did some antics in the studio. That was a funny time.
You have a style, Your clothes are, you wear practically the same thing.
I do. I'm not very stylish.
Well, and it was funny because I was looking up your house on Google Streets.
Stalking?
Yeah,
huh?
Oh yeah, I do it all the time.
Great.
I just want to find out where's this place that Kim lives. And then I saw the picture, and there was some guy out there lawn mowing, and I was like, is that Kim? And sure enough, identified by
that
what
was
you're...
on a Google map with me
Street
mowing
View.
my lawn.
Street View, yeah.
Well, and I had the shirt.
You had the shirt and the jeans. I was like,
geez.
it could have been, September or something like that.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I'm not the guys used to make fun of me. Said, he never wears shorts, I don't know, corporate. I think it was, I did my time as a musician with the long hair. Whoop, I just banged it. Did you hear that?
Yeah.
All right, don't smile in there. Yeah, all right. And it just stayed with me.
You never wore shorts when you were a musician? I mean, you're a drummer, right? So you're behind. You get pretty hot back there.
I know. I was hot.
Yeah.
And hot, good
Both.
too. I was good. No, that was a blast. I mean, I traveled with the bands that I was in. Really traveled like around the country.
Yep. You just hop in the van and go?
Yeah. We had 3 vans. This one band that I was in right before I met my wife, actually, and we traveled down to Texas and Louisiana and all that. The one thing about traveling, not to get on that subject, is the road really gets boring, because you don't have friends wherever you're going, right?
Yep.
So you only have each other. There are 5 of us, sound guy and 4 guys in the band. And it's really not a great life. That's what I discovered. So when I got back, I was like, okay, I'm not, been there, done that, I'm not going to do that anymore. So
Yeah.
anyhow.
Well,
All right.
So tell me, has it been 15 years with BevCam? What are some of the big changes you've seen?
On the payroll, it's been 10, 11, I don't know, 13 or 14, and then I think I spent 2 years volunteering.
Yeah, so
I mean, I was down at BevCam every day, early in the morning until late. My wife thought, he's not even getting paid. Why does he spend so much time? I was so attached to it. It was so different from anything I've ever done for the previous 25 years, right? What was the question?
So the big changes. What have you seen that's different than it was?
You mean with BevCam?
Yeah.
Or just me?
Either.
Yeah, obviously, the studio at the high school, during the time I was manager changed because the old high school had to be torn down, and then we had to relocate BevCam to the middle school. At the time, it was the old middle school on a stage. So we had our studio and everything on a stage in the old middle school while they tore down the old high school and rebuilt the high school. So the big change when I came on was getting into the new high school. The studio was a lot smaller because we had the studio in the old places was as big as this. The room itself was the size of the studio that we had.
Yeah.
So the school kind of nudged us down into a smaller footprint, and we managed, and you're still over there doing studio work, some office space. And then, you guys, you've been here 2.5 years or something.
Mm-hmm.
You were scouting for a place. There's 1 or 2 places down on Rantoul that you were looking at, and here, I think across the street, you looked at a place.
Yep.
And then this came out of, I don't even know if it was even advertised.
I think we swept in the next day. We got word.
Yeah, got word, and
So I don't
said
think it was advertised.
there, and the owners obviously, that'd be kind of cool to have a television type of place.
Yeah, they appreciated that it was not another store, that it was a community-based nonprofit. So we were very lucky to get in there quickly, and they took a shine to us.
And the location, I thought, back then it was important. Wanted to be close to the Cabot, close to the art school, downtown, the parade goes by, every year. That was important, and that worked out great. It really did. And then you were instrumental in planning the design, the layout, where everything was going to go, putting up a podcast area with curtains, right? Just everything. Thanks to you for jumping in to do that.
Oh man, it's been great doing it. I think it's I always talk about how much I really have become enamored with Beverly and the North Shore. It's great. It's a great community. I have no complaints.
Well, I heard from Realtor.com that it was the best place to live,
Something
I don't know, in the world or something, right?
So you're obviously somebody that has a passion for BevCam. What would you say to people who are thinking about joining it, or why would you want to get involved with BevCam? What do you think is the most important thing?
People. I think what Walt used to instill in me, and some of my background, making products for people, ultimately, it's that interaction that really pays off. When you can help somebody produce a show or accomplish something, because originally I had this digital tape and I needed to do something with it, so I went to BevCam and paid my $15 dues and got taught all this stuff and actually edited that whole thing myself, felt good about it. That's what you want to do with people that come in. So I think that's what you offer. The only problem is it's not for everybody. I found that, right? Not everybody is like us, right? They go in and they say, oh, I'd like to do a show, Can I just show up next week and do they don't always want to get involved with the detail, like, how to have the microphone in the right place, the lighting, actually be part of the production.
Yep.
So that's difficult when people just want to, exercise their freedom of speech and then walk out the door and say, see you next week, There is a lot of work to do when you have your own show. That's why I've never had my own show.
Well, that's my next question. It sounds like, you'd be great at having a show, and I've heard you talk about it, but you've never quite pulled the trigger on that. What's going on?
Well, I've never been comfortable in front of a camera. And
first of all, that's just crazy, because if we can tell from this, you do well in front of a camera.
Well, thank you.
Yeah, I barely have to feed you a question, and you're carrying.
Pay you afterwards for that compliment. I have been told that my voice is low enough to be on NPR if I ever want. No, I just don't think I have much to say. I've always joked about having a a show like this, a show with cameras instead of just a podcast without cameras, where I would invite a guest in and I would host it, and the guest, after about 5 minutes, would start, like dozing off, and I'd have to kind of tap the person, and then, 5 more minutes would go by and they would doze out. I thought, boy, what a great show that would make, but it would only be one show.
One of the first things that I really enjoyed about being at BevCam was to get there at 8:30 in the morning and sit and have, my tea and your coffee with you for half an hour. And we would talk about anything, just, what's going on with your life, what's going on for the BevCam. So I doubt that would happen. It was always enjoyable to sit and
no, thank you.
have a
I
conversation
enjoyed that too. Here he is. Oh, I shouldn't say that.
Oh, we got something off camera.
Yeah.
And Dom's giving us a sign that we can wrap it up.
Oh, he just gave the sign to you. Okay, that's right.
I am the host. I mean, I know
that
you're not
was
used
a
to
fast half hour.
Really?
Yeah. I thought it was. Geez, we'll have to do episode 2 sometime.
To the second half an hour. Well, so much great time to have you on the show. Is that the right sentence? I think I kind of messed up that sentence.
It was my pleasure.
It's been great having you on the show, on the premiere episode of the BevCast, Kim. So thank you so much. Thank you for all you've done. I know even when I first got here, recognized that somebody that kind of kept the wind in the sails of BevCam was
What
Kim,
a nice guy.
Kim Allyn.
Thank you very much, sir.
Thank you. And please, thanks for joining us. I should do an outro. Here, let me try that again. I'm going to have to edit this now. I'm going to have to edit this now. Darn. Anyway, that's any whale. Let's try it again. Anyway, that's the first episode of BevCast, where we talk to people that are around BevCam, that are involved with BevCam. They're doing shows. They're behind the camera. We hope you enjoyed it. We'll be back next time with another guest. So please check us out at bevcam.org.